Hello and thank you for joining me on another lovely sunny afternoon, and by the end of this video today I'm hopefully going to put your mind at rest, and if you are an adult who wants to learn how to play the 5-string banjo, I might have just the solution for you. So I get asked questions a lot, and I'm talking all the time, like every day, and a lot of the times it's the same question I'm being asked. So I'm going to take some of the most common questions that I've been asked recently, and hopefully it'll provide you the answers that you need to know to convince you that starting to learn how to play the banjo as an adult is something that you will greatly benefit from, and you know, in a year or 2 years time from now you'll look back at today and be glad that you ever started. So Bernie says, I want to learn the banjo but I don't play any instrument. Is it still doable? So people have this preconception that to learn how to play the banjo or to somehow be ahead of the game is to have skills beforehand, you know, to be able to play guitar probably is the common one, or you know, you play some other kind of instrument. By being able to do that first, you'll be somehow ahead of the game. I mean, yeah, there's probably some transferable skills between playing guitar and playing the banjo. Basic things like timing, maintaining rhythm, feeling comfortable holding the instrument, simple stuff. But to assume that a good guitarist can just suddenly pick up a banjo and start playing is quite a popular misconception. And to answer Bernie's question, is it still doable? It's completely doable. And as a matter of fact, I think in some instances not having that prerequisite preconception could work in your advantage, because sometimes it's better just to start again. Just pick up a banjo, just start again from scratch. And the people that I teach at the moment in Banjo Adventures, a lot of the times they tell me that they're just going to go back to the beginning and start again from scratch, because it's like, have you ever watched a movie, like a fairly complicated movie, like imagine The Matrix, one of my favourite movies. The first time you watch it, it's quite confusing. Then the second time you watch it, you understand a bit more. Then the third time you watch it, you get deep into the lore and you understand all the philosophy behind it and all the rest. So the more you do things, the more you go back to the beginning and start again, the deeper of an understanding you get for it and a deeper appreciation. And the reason why I'm saying this is because even if you've played banjo for a month or two and you're getting into the basics and you go back to the beginning, every time you go back to the start, you learn something new again. So to answer that question, is it still doable? I think it is more than doable. And you know, clawhammer banjo isn't all that complicated. You just learn a basic rhythm first, a couple of chords, and from there you can play a song. Dan Kemp from TikTok said, just got a 4-string after watching my videos. Will that work? Will that technique work? So I think he's talking about the clawhammer technique. So could you play clawhammer on a 4-string banjo? And the answer is no. The 4-string banjo, also known as a tenor banjo, is a completely different beast to the 5-string banjo. Even though it's the same shape, the same layout and all the rest of it, and it's got 1 string less, it's a different tuning and it's a different style of playing. With a 4-string banjo, you tend to use a pick, a plectrum, and you strum away using a plectrum. The 5-string banjo is typically played 2 different styles. You can play the clawhammer style, which is what I'm playing now, or you can play the 3-finger style. Now, I'm not very good at 3-finger style. I didn't really spend enough time learning it. But 3-finger, normally you use finger picks, it's like steel finger picks and a plastic one on your thumb, and you plant your fingers down on your banjo head and then you start to pick. That's about as far as my skills go. But the 3-finger style, it's called Scruggs style. It was invented by a chap called Earl Scruggs, and it was popularised in the 1940s. And it kind of took precedence in the banjo world. It kind of like took over and became the most popular style. So when I first started learning the banjo, I was 18. Bought my banjo from a music shop in Bolton and got it home. And I was given a DVD, some finger picks, a banjo, a strap, and I just cracked on, started learning finger picking. It wasn't until about 2 years later I discovered clawhammer and realised that I was learning the wrong style for me all this time. What was the original question? Just got a 4-string. Yeah, so if you've so I just trailed away there. So yeah, if If you're looking to learn to play the banjo, understand that there are different types of banjo. You've got the 5-string, which is what I'm holding now. You've got a 4-string, and then there's some other weird ones like a 6-string, which is more like a guitar. And then you've got the smaller versions, the ukulele, or they're called the banjoleles. That's like what George Formby used to play when I'm cleaning windows. Whitballs 420 said, would you say a clawhammer is easier to learn coming from an extreme beginner versus the 3-finger technique? Now, I can answer this from my own personal experience, and I think I've already answered it. For me personally, I find the clawhammer style easier, but the learning curve is steeper. So if you imagine the learning curve for clawhammer is like steep, and then it peters off, and then it just kind of levels out. Whereas the learning curve for the 3-finger scrug style, it starts off low and it just gradually gets more and more technical and more challenging and more difficult, and it spikes up. That's the best way I can explain that. Is it easier? Nothing is really truly easy. All the styles are going to require time, effort, work, persistence, repetition, learning, pushing yourself to learn some new stuff. And the thing that people don't talk about when teaching or learning the banjo is it requires work. It is actually work and effort to learn it. And as adults, we tend to deviate away from that work. If we can find an easy way to do things, we will. But there isn't an easy way to learn the banjo. You just got to pick it up every day. Just spend a few minutes, 5, 10, 15 minutes here and there. And then you'll gradually pick up those incremental gains. I always say to my students in Banjo Adventures, imagine today is my first day learning the banjo. Today is the worst that I will ever be. I cannot be any worse than today. Tomorrow, I'll be a little bit better. The day after that, a little bit better. You just see what I mean? And every day, you can only get better. The only way you'll ever get worse at learning the banjo is if you don't pick it up. And if you don't pick it up for many, many days in a row, that's the only way you'll start to lose that knowledge and that experience and that skill. So is it easier? I'd say it's no different, but it's just the way you approach the learning and the effort and the time that you put into your learning schedule. Another question that I get asked a lot is, are banjo lessons worth it? In the endless sea of information that is the modern day internet, is it even worth paying for banjo lessons? Now, like I said, I started learning from a young age, so I was 18. Now, your typical 18-year-old has got 2 priorities in life. Chasing women, getting drunk, that's 2. Video games, that's 3. And sleeping, 4. Your typical 18-year-old has 4 priorities in life. And they've got an asset that not many of us later on in life don't have, and that is time. They've got time to waste. They've got time to just spend browsing the internet, doing their own research, finding all that good stuff. But as adults, we don't have that time. We've got busy lives, we've got families, we've got children, we've got grandchildren, you've got things to do, work to do, responsibilities and all the rest of it. So time is, as you get older, time is one of the most valuable assets. Now, time is something that you can't save it, you can't invest it, and you can't make more of it. You can only spend it. And I always say that learning the banjo, like I said, it's work, and the easiest way to make learning the banjo more pleasant is to reduce the amount of friction you can between you grabbing your banjo and learning and playing. And I say simple things like, just leave your banjo out of its case next to your favourite chair, have your books and stuff set up, so all you have to do is just sit down, grab your banjo and you're already playing. Always have a spare packet of strings in case you snap one, you're not waiting days for a new packet to arrive. Those little tiny things of friction that get in between you and your banjo playing is enough to put you off. And it doesn't take much, because like I said, it is work, and it doesn't take much to put you off. So the reason why I'm saying this is, what happens is when you pay for banjo lessons, you're reducing that friction by a hell of a lot. Because if you imagine, you've only got a certain amount of time to spend learning the banjo, and what you don't want to do is create a massive friction block by the first few minutes of your banjo session. You're having to go on the internet, you're having to search for what to learn, what to do next. You've got all different types of information on, banjo bite-sized videos, you've got series, tutorials, you've got all different teachers teaching different things, different ways, different styles. And it's a fantastic resource, but it is quite overwhelming. And if you don't have the time to sit down and dig through it all and find a teacher or a style or a method that works for you, you're just wasting time and you're creating that friction block. So banjo lessons are more than worth it, because if you look at money rather than it being just like a cash value. It's an energy. You know, you're transferring your energy, you're transferring your energy and giving it to. So you're transferring that energy and exchanging it for knowledge and a quick path to banjo success. Next question will be, my vegan travel said, are no finger picks needed? Now you'll see that I've got no finger picks on my hand, and I play clawhammer just using the back of the middle fingernail. And what people do is they assume that they've got some kind of problem. Everyone gets this thing called fingernail angst. Now I use the back of my middle fingernail. I don't have a particularly big fingernail. You don't need to grow like a massive Cruella de Vil style claw to play a clawhammer. All you need is just the tiniest little nub, just enough to get a nice clean strike. And we use the back of the fingernail and we pluck, we strum, and then we also use our thumb to pick that fifth string on the upbeat. It's called the basic frailing strum. It's a cornerstone of clawhammer banjo, and it's a 4-action simple motion. You just strike down on a string. Let's take that first string for example. You just strike down, you strum, and you thumb. And that's it. Strike, strum, thumb. Like that. And the thing is with clawhammer, the magic happens when you start to speed that up. Now just listen to what happens. Now change the strings, move my way down the strings. It's called the basic frailing strum, and it's the foundational skill for a clawhammer banjo. So yeah, you don't need finger picks for clawhammer banjo. You just need your hand, a little bit of a fingernail, and a steely determination to want to learn how to play. Another question I got asked by P was, the banjo I have has a resonator on it. Should I take it off to play clawhammer? So what he means by a resonator is, you'll see that my banjo, this is called an open back banjo, and you can see that the back of it is open. You can see straight through, you can see my hand. Now, that's an open back banjo, and a resonator is like a piece of wood that goes on the back, and what it does when you hit the strings vibrate. The strings vibrate through that wooden piece there called the bridge, and in the instance of my banjo, most of the sound is just absorbed into my jumper. Now, with a resonator, what happens is the sound waves go through the banjo, hit the resonator, and then bounce forwards, and it creates more volume and more directional sound for the banjo to travel to. So it's great if I'm sat on this hill now performing to a group of people in front of me. It gives it that volume and that direction of sound, whereas at the moment I'm just playing by myself. So I don't really need the volume. As well as that, a resonator adds a little bit more weight to your banjo. So does it affect the clawhammer style? No, it doesn't make a difference. And there is a popular misconception that to learn 3-finger scrug style you need to have a resonator, and to learn clawhammer banjo you don't need to have a resonator. And that's not true. You can play any style of the banjo, whether it's got a resonator or open back. I prefer open back just because it feels more earthly, it's lighter, it's smaller, because obviously I've not got that extra size of a resonator on. And yeah, it's just, I prefer it. So it's all personal preference, and yeah, that is probably the end of this video. If you found it useful, give it a like, and be sure to come and check out banjoadventures.com.